good evening, good afternoon, whatever it is. Not legal advice. Please subscribe, share, do all those things. That would be appreciated. We're coming up near another thousand, and as I indicated, for every thousand we do, $50 gets donated to LA Children's Hospital. So that's a good thing. Um, Somebody's asked me to start off my videos with a joke. I blame the gentleman named Bruce T. He is the one to blame. So I'm going to try and see what happens. Some of them are going to be horrendous. I will state that, but we're gonna start off and see where it goes and see if we can have some fun with it. So here we go. It's amazing how much social media does not judge the quality of opinions uh, just based on unusual names. I was having this really deep discussion about Ukrainian constitutional law with at anal fistula yesterday. Okay, that was it. Now on to the new material. And first, I wanted to address I hear people often talk about circumstantial evidence versus direct evidence. And they talk about that circumstantial evidence somehow is lesser and not as reliable as direct evidence. And I wanted to give you an example, kind of giving you the opposite view of that. So, direct evidence would be, for example, two people who watch a car crash and are asked about their opinions of it. And often it just happens that people have different recollections of the car crash. They're in different positions. And so even though they have direct evidence, they could differ. And, most recently we had the ski trial, I think. Um, and that was, I think, in Utah. Gwyneth Paltrow and a dentist, they had a collision and they differed in their opinions of what happened. And in fact, I think there was a third party witness who was aligned with plaintiff who disagreed with Paltrow. And that was direct evidence, but it was proved to be that people had different opinions about it. So it may not have been accurate. One person certainly was not accurate. So that is direct evidence. I'll give you an example of circumstantial evidence. So if you have a surgery and after the surgery you go home and your tummy aches and aches so much you have to go back to the hospital, they open you up and they find a surgical sponge in your tummy. So that's circumstantial evidence that that sponge was left in your tummy during the first surgery. That's that's such good evidence that the law has created a concept called res ipsa loquitur, where in effect the fact is presumed to have occurred. So there's no need to prove beyond that, just that the sponge was there. And so that is just circumstantial evidence. But that's stronger evidence and more reliable than the direct evidence I gave you about the conflicting car accident opinions. So when somebody talks about circumstantial versus direct, it still depends on the quality of the evidence, the number of witnesses, and other factors. So don't be led astray by somebody minimizing that it's only circumstantial, because most people do not admit to misconduct, and most people do not videotape and publish their own misconduct. So to expect direct evidence of anything is kind of misguided. So let me move on to the real topic. So we've gotten a joke, we got like a side lesson, and now let's talk about the real topic. And the real topic, and I think the name of the video is Naked Without Shorts, and it's about invasion of privacy. And it arises out of apparent incidents, and I'm not familiar with them, but I'll just kind of state what I've heard. Apparent incidents at Tesla whereby the cameras that are used for either FSD or for autopilot um, took pictures of people from the car. And I guess that was not supposed to have occurred, and some people were upset about it. There was a series of complaints. I think it's a handful of complaints that apparently has led to a class action, and the class action apparently was just initiated. And just to kind of put that in context, the class action is initiated, but there's a lot of stuff that happens before you get to any kind of substance. You have to certify the class, a bunch of notices have to go out, then there'll be a whole bunch of procedural motions. So I don't expect the substantive stuff to be for a year or two, but let's address the issues a little bit anyway, because the issue is invasion of privacy. So here the claim is that cameras may have filmed people without their permission. That's basically the claim. So it depends, in large part where it happened, what the state's law was, the time of day, what the contract says, and what the state law might say. So some states might have laws that, separate and apart from your expectation or the contract, prohibit that kind of conduct. It might require intention to do, or it might be just a slam dunk. If it happens, you're liable. So if it's a slam dunk and you're liable, that's called strict liability. If you require some type of intent, that's what it is. You require some type of intent. For example, if you commit fraud, that has to be done with specific intent to commit fraud. If you are negligent, that doesn't require specific intention. That's just being reckless or careless. So kind of that describes the difference. So you have to look at a bunch of factors to decide, what the circumstances were, and we don't know that yet. I'm sure we will at some future point in time. But let's kind of discuss a couple of examples, and I can kind of illustrate for you when you might have, because this is going to be the ultimate issue. Do you have a reasonable expectation of privacy? So that's the issue. So if you run outside naked to the front of your house at noon, you probably don't have a reasonable expectation of privacy. And if a Tesla camera in a car took a picture of you and circulated it, it probably wouldn't be a good thing, but you probably wouldn't have much of a claim. If it was at 4 o'clock in the morning and it was dark outside, it would be you'd have a better claim because you'd have a better expectation of privacy. But since you ran out in the nude, it still probably wouldn't be great. But what happens if it happened in your own garage? Your garage door is closed, and you're coming from inside your house. You don't have any clothes on. You're just going to get something out of your car or something like that, and it takes pictures of you. Well, under that circumstance, you might have a specific expectation of privacy. So that would be a different scenario. And we don't know under which of these scenarios it happened. We don't know the numbers. We need to see the number of cases, the actual number of people involved, what the shared info is itself. What is it? If there were any public figures involved, and all those would go to potential damages and the like. So if we just shared like a neutral picture of your car that caused no harm versus a nude picture of a celebrity where harm could be greater, those are obviously much different situations. Additionally, damages in large part are going to turn on how Tesla managed it. So after they found out that maybe photographs were being or video was being shared, what did they do to address it? Were people fired? Were people transferred? Did they review the materials? How much time did it take them? All those things. But in the end, so we're, again, kind of looking for a reasonable expectation of privacy based on your state laws, contracts, the circumstances, and who you are and what the damages are. That's kind of the generic package. But in reality, it's probably likely that most of the cases are of tiny value. Most of them are probably innocuous, where there's no real harm. Maybe the picture was inappropriate in that it shouldn't have been done, and it shouldn't have been circulated. But if it's just a picture of a car, for example, basically no harm, no foul. and those aren't going to be worth anything in large part. There's probably a handful of them that might be compromising positions, and I'm speculating here, may have been compromising positions, may have been mishandled, could have been circulated, and perhaps those might have more value. And we'll find out about this in the coming months because I'm sure it's going to be a case that will be addressed publicly because it has a kind of a big romantic and Hollywood style setup. So we'll see who it involves, what happened, etc., as it goes on, and hopefully the problem has been fixed. But I kind of want to compare it to two situations that have happened in the recent time. I'll compare it to I think Erin Andrews in I think 2008. She was at a Nashville hotel, I think a Marriott in Nashville. I think that's the hotel, and some guy had called up the hotel, had asked if she was staying there, then somehow made a reservation to stay right next to her, and then took nude photos of her. Well, he wasn't nude, but he took photos of her nude and then circulated them. And it went to trial. I think the award was $55 million. He was responsible for half, and the hotel was responsible for half, or $27.5 million. And, to some degree, they were lucky. Apparently, in Tennessee, it's not joint and several liability. And joint and several liability means that in some states, like in California, if you have 5 defendants who are responsible for a tort, like fraud or something like that, they're all jointly and severally responsible for the full amount. So you could go against any one of them to collect the full amount. In this particular situation, it sounded like there was no joint and several liability. They were each liable just for half. And Marriott got out lucky at $27.5 million, which is a lot. That happened before 2016, so that's a lot of money. The other one that I'll compare it to, but again, not comparing it in terms of the substance of the photographs. I'm just comparing it because it's a recent case, and it happened not far from where my office is. So the case is of Kobe Bryant and his helicopter crash. The crash happened about 2 miles from where my office is. LA County sheriffs apparently circulated pictures of the scene and of the victims. And they were circulated internally. Because of the nature of the pictures themselves, the LA County sheriff settled up before trial, long before trial, with the Bryant family, and the amount was something on the order of $28.5 million. And those pictures did not go out beyond the LA County sheriffs, I believe. And there's a settlement, so the amount was likely less than would have occurred at a trial, etc. So that's the most recent, because that was in 2022. I doubt if any of these situations are going to be anywhere near that terrible a circumstance, so that I don't believe any situation will arise where damages will be of that amount, but we don't know, so we'll have to see. But that's kind of the general scenario. Again, that's naked without shorts and invasion of privacy. Have a good night. Be well.